Hey everyone, it's Ivan, KipBadger.com, out here to tell you about the 2023 Varusteleka Remote Military March and give you my loadout. So we'll go ahead, broad strokes, start with what is the Remote Military March? Well, it's something that was started by Varusteleka, pretty cool company. I had the opportunity to meet the guys. They're from Finland, they're Finns, and met them at Desert Brutality 2020. Really cool group of guys. And they started in 2020, April I guess it would be, the first Remote Military March, which I ended up doing with my boys. I'm pretty sure it was that year. Maybe it was 2021. I think it was 2020. And either 25 or 50 kilometer road march. So roughly 15 or 30 miles respectively. And under load, 10 kilogram pack. If you're not into the metric thing, 22 pounds. And yeah, a military road march. So ideally mixed terrain to include like on roads and stuff like that. So I ended up actually doing it that first year with my boys. They were pretty young. There were definitely tears involved. And we also did it with my buddy Matt from Jerking the Trigger. It was a cool experience and enjoyed it. Type 2 fun, but still enjoyed it. So I think I missed a couple years and I saw like, hey, it's coming up towards the end of April-ish, and I was like, let's do that. So signed up for it, and as it would happen, my oldest son, Jada, was actually on a trip with his mother, but my youngest son, Ira, was with me, and Matt wasn't able to make it. So it was gonna be the two of us. So we ended up getting after it, and it was an adventure. Leave it. There it goes. Before we dig into my pack, I'll go over just kind of what I was wearing, I guess. For socks, had some of these 0.6 merino wool socks. I was going to bring a change of socks. I may have brought it, it could still be in here. I might have forgot it, I don't remember, but I ended up wearing these same socks the whole time. At the roughly halfway-ish point, about 10 miles in, we took a prolonged rest, took my socks off, laid them out. They kind of aired out, dried pretty quick, let my feet breathe some. But yeah, those did good. For a t-shirt, I just ended up wearing this. It's not some crazy special like wool blend or anything like that. It's just a pretty sweet Don't Waco Me Bro shirt from Q, which funny enough, when we got stuck at the beginning of that adventure, one of the guys that stopped was like, hey, what's your shirt say? And I'm like, oh, it says, don't wake on me, bro. He's like, nice. It's like, there's a lot of good people up here in North Idaho. I'm like, you know what? There is. Because up here in North Idaho was also Ruby Ridge, and people don't forget. But for footwear, I ended up wearing these. These are new to me. These are limbs. They're, trying to remember the name of these, Outlander, which are actually waterproof. So Ira was actually wearing some limbs also not waterproof. His did pretty good, and these actually did really good. Like, my feet didn't get wet at all. I was worried about them sweating a little bit, which they did a tiny bit, but not enough to cause a problem. Again, 10 miles in, took them off, aired out my feet, and yeah, just let my feet breathe. And then for pants, I was wearing these right here. Prometheus Design Works, one of their Raider pants, this one out of like a ripstop. And I guess we'll go over all this stuff, well, real quick. One, this cut of pants is probably my favorite. I'm wearing it now. And yeah, I really like it because it holds all of my things in a convenient way for me. Like all my everyday carry stuff, which is great. There's a few things I don't like, which came to mind. This is one of them. Sorry, Patrick, I can't stand this thing. Basically, it's a little like stash pocket, but invariably what happens is, as you can tell, it's all bunched up, which it did bunch up and create hot spots. I'd keep having to shove it back down. And yeah, I can't stand them. I actually cut them out of these. I cut them out of every pair of pants. I just hadn't cut them out of these yet. So could have done without that, but bad on me. In there, had my RMT, ratcheting medical tourniquet. Over in, I guess this is a pocket dump of sorts. I had my Minuteman knife by AMTAC blades. Also in that pocket, had my little field notes, Expedition 1, it's waterproof, and my telescoping Fisher space pin. And then over on this side, on my belt, this is, actually did a video about this a long time ago. I had this belt, probably my best favorite backpacking belt. Had it made in Afghanistan, super simple. But I had this guy over here, which I guess this is the Minuteman. That would be the Northman X. But I had that other strong side. And then in my pocket, had this is the Streamlight Macro Stream USB rechargeable. In here I also had a wallet, which is in my other pants I'm wearing. And then I had a little mini Bic and some chapstick. And then also on my belt, concealed under my shirt, I had this guy, which is holster from friends over at Carey Concealment. And this is my Walther PDP F-Series with some G9 bullets for wild animals or two-legged animals, also wild. And then the Holosun, which is this, I forget the model of this. It's basically the one that can go pretty much forever. There's no battery and it regulates itself with respect to light. And then TLR 7 Alpha for weapon light. So I had all that. How did most of this stuff honestly wasn't used. This, I'm glad it wasn't used. At one point saw a moose, probably one of the most dangerous things up in North Idaho, because they just don't care. And if they decide they want to come kick you to death, then you're probably gonna have to shoot them to death or get kicked to death. I'm glad it did not come to that. Yeah, I think that was largely kind of what I had on my person. I'll now show you kind of what I was carrying in my pack. I'll be honest, I don't remember the name of this pack. It's the new pack by Prometheus Design Works, and I don't even have cell service, so I couldn't even look it up if I wanted to. But I wore this, and it is configurable. It actually has a waist belt to it. I opted not to, in part because, well, it has a waist belt. I could figure out some sort of external holster, but I was gonna be carrying concealed, so easier not to without a waist belt. And kind of on the threshold with respect to weight where you want a waist belt or you can get away with not wearing one. So again, 10 kilograms, 22 pounds, and it needed to remain that. So I knew I was gonna have some water weight. I ended up going over, this being 20, I think when I weighed it full of water, like whatever these hold, it was like 27 pounds. And through the whole thing, I actually didn't touch that water because I was drinking other water. My son had a 1 liter Nalgene, and then in peanut saddlebags, we actually had 2 soft like bladders of 2 more liters. So we ended up going through that. In the top of this, I had a power pack, super handy, charge phones, because I was tracking the GPS and stuff. Had a couple of snacks for my son that he did not get to, as well as some Propel. I think we ended up using 1 Propel, and then we also some Element, which between the two, I think I like the Element better. I think it probably does a better job with hydration too, but had that, easy access up in this top pack. And then for water bottles, I had these two guys. They're by Liberty Bottle Works, I believe it is. They're honestly not my favorite water bottles, but they're slim and they fit in these pockets really easy. So inside this pack basically opens up and then you can actually unzip the entire front of it. I had this in case I needed to do a little bit of chopping. I reviewed this before. It's actually by Varusteleka. I actually pulled it out and used it when I got stuck trying to get up to where we were going to start our adventure, and actually chopped some limbs off of trees to help try and get traction to get unstuck. Use that. Also up top here, blowout kit. Fortunately did not need that. This, I think it's a bobble press, sounds right. It's basically a coffee press, and I had ground some coffee, threw it in there. Did not end up obviously making that coffee. A pot, don't know if I reviewed this, as well as some tea that I did not use. And the stove. There'll be links to all this stuff down below too. I also had a extra canister. Not sure if that was on purpose or not. And then a warming layer, should I need it. It was actually really nice weather, considering how cold it's been up here. So I had this, which is the DA hoodie from Prometheus Design Works. Not the most compressible, but it is windproof, which is nice, should that be a thing. And then some extra bullets, about 60 of them, subsonic 300 blackout, and this little guy with another 10 rounds of subsonic 300 blackout, EOTech, and the Turbo Scout Light by SureFire. And yeah, this thing's actually a lot of fun. So where we were gonna go hiking, oh yeah, and then a sling, as well as this hot pocket by not by Wiseman Company. It's actually by Lunar Concepts, but sold through Wiseman Company. So where we were gonna end up going, I'd actually stashed a target. So I was like, hey, maybe we'll get out to like roughly a halfway point, set the target up, do a little bit of shooting. Again, subsonics, Thunder Chicken on here, so not gonna need Ear Pro. Brought Eye Pro for my son and I. But on our adventure, while we were trekking along, quickly it became apparent that it's not super fun hiking on snow. So, hey, what about if we go out, which we ended up going out roughly like 2.25 miles. We're like, hey, why don't we go back to where we had parked and then take this other logging road down, and that way we can hopefully get out of the snow line. So we ended up actually doing that. The adventure started me waking my son up at about 5:30 so we could get out early. Didn't really go as planned. When my minivan got stuck, we were there probably a little over an hour before some guys came, helped us, winched me back, got a running start, had to winch me back a second time, got a better running start, and plowed through basically the crux of it, and then got up to the top, which we were not very far from. And yeah, it's part of the adventure. We ended up losing some time. My son was a trooper about it, and we set off. We ended up going for that adventure. And towards the end of it, it was definitely less fun, and he was definitely having less fun. And all in all, it was a good time. And he actually enjoyed it too. And we talked about a lot of things. One, like willingness to be faced with adversity and persistence to be able to push through that. And I explained to him, like, hey, like, you probably won't appreciate this for a long time. And it wasn't miserable to the point where he's like, Dad, I'm never doing anything with you again. But no, like, it was tough. And I was like, I get it. Like, it's tough for me. Like, my feet hurt too. Looking forward to being done with this. But also the opportunity to have that conversation about, through doing hard things, when you are faced with something difficult in life, whether it is something mentally difficult or physically difficult, if you've never done anything hard, like, it may as well be insurmountable. But when you can reflect back and be like, yeah, like I've done hard things, it ends up creating perspective for like, hey, like I've done things way harder than this. Or maybe the thing you're faced with is harder than anything you've ever done in your life. But if you've looked back, you've been like, man, like there's been other things in my life that were the hardest thing I've ever been able to do or get through. And I managed to get through that, like, yeah, it instills confidence, which a lot of people I think don't have. Like, they're afraid of failure and, I don't know, soft. But it was an awesome experience overall, and just really just grateful to share it with my son and Peanut, because he came along for the ride too. And even though we were a little behind schedule, we made it back in time for the Pokemon Go Community Day event, which was kind of a big deal. So we ended up going and catching a bunch of Pokemon, and that was a lot of fun too. But yeah, overall pretty rad event, and eventually in the mail we'll get our sweet patches for completing said Varusteleka Remote Military March 2023. And in the future, i.e. next year or previous years, future years rather, if this is something you would like to do, I would encourage you to do it. I mean, there's no time limit, like go out there and do it. Ideally quicker than slower, because still got to just cover that distance. But yeah, doing hard things, I think there's value there. And as always, thanks for joining us at kitbadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.